Hello and welcome to this week's video. So today we're going to take a second look through my vintage Star Wars magazine collection. So a couple of weeks back we went through the first lot and feedback was that you actually really enjoyed looking through those magazines and that it brought back loads of memories. So let's hope that the same is true today. So sit back, relax and let's get to it. Hello and welcome to my latest Star Wars video. So today we're going to be taking a second look through my vintage Star Wars magazines. So without further ado, let's get started. This one was a copy of Cinefantastique, absolutely fantastic special effects magazine. This is volume 28, number 9. And this was looking at the special visual effects of The Empire Strikes Back. This is from March 1977. I always really loved Cinefantastique as a magazine. Although I never bought every issue, I used to enjoy just looking through it because there was always so much interesting stuff in there. And well, there you see, absolutely fantastic stuff. Yeah, really great magazine, Cinefantastique. Almost a homage to a forgotten art these days with CGI, and it's sort of put an end to a lot of this special effects work. But if you do ever come across issues of CGI, you are guaranteed a quality read, shall we say. Here's another one, which was like a 20th anniversary special on the original trilogy, and this sort of took a new look at the entire trilogy's special effects. It's almost like a Star Wars special, this one, and is pretty well worth you getting your hands on a copy if you can. Really good stuff, this. As you can see, it's almost all Star Wars, this one. And that's the 20th anniversary of Star Wars. Next one's then, well, you may remember a little while back we covered the Star Wars Insider magazine, and this was another one that was done by Topps, which was the trading card people. So this was an official magazine, and this was called Star Wars Galaxy Collector, and it's large format. This was the first issue, and there's a lot of good stuff in this actually, and it certainly, admittedly, it was a bit of a platform for promoting Topps product, but there was a lot of other really great stuff in here. Like they always had a collecting article by Steve Sansweet. Obviously they were able to use the great Topps artwork as well, and this really does hark back to a time when Star Wars was starting to come back with a vengeance. It really was, and yeah, it seems almost naive now about what Star Wars was about to come, but it really was a massive, this was just the start of it really. This is February 98, and they did just a few more issues in this size, and then the Star Wars Insider took over. Topps got into a bit of trouble, I believe, and Star Wars Insider took over. So there was number 2, there was number 3, and then number 4, which is in the larger format. And they would always come with like promo trading cards and things like that in them. But really interesting magazine, and it was always very well produced. Next we've got this one from March 2001, and this is when Star Wars was on Sky Movies. So Sky's a broadcasting house in the UK. And they had the rights to the Phantom Menace, so they could show the first 4 Star Wars films that were made, and they celebrated that fact with a Star Wars cover there and a little article inside. They're quite nice. Also, I don't have much of this sort of stuff in my collection, but this was also from the 1999 Sunday People magazine. They gave Ewan McGregor a cover there. I'm sure Star Wars fans have seen this one, so let's pop those over there a moment. This was the original cinema booklet for Star Wars. You could buy this one in the cinema of your choice back in 1977. It's not rare by any means, but it is a really nice sort of souvenir booklet look at the first film. And any big film back then tended to have a souvenir magazine of some sort, and Star Wars was no exception. This one is really nice, and there's lots of different versions of it. There's a really nice Japanese version, I know, which is almost identical, but Japanese text. So it's a nice bit of fun. As I said, pretty common, this one now, even though it's a nice vintage item. You know, you're not going to have to pay too much for that, but it is really nice. It's got a few little creases there. Also found in my magazines, I don't know what this was doing in here, was AT-AT instructions for The Empire Strikes Back and a set of Palatoy Empire Strikes Back instructions. I've got a Jedi one, so maybe that's if I ever did get an Empire one. Sci-Fi Universe, this was another sort of short-lived magazine. This is an American one from the mid-90s, but they did have some interesting Star Wars coverage, and that's why I picked this one up and ended up keeping it. Certainly Star Wars lives, and they were right. It was the rumblings were there that Star Wars was coming back in a very big way, and it's clearly evident in some of these magazines from that period. Now this one is great because it was the one and only issue of what was called Star Wars Generation, and it actually got withdrawn and banned because this was not licensed by Lucasfilm at all, and they do cover some quite controversial subjects in here, and you know, they just went ahead and published it. And you know, when we had Purple Haze, the shop in Plymouth, we had like 75 copies of it, and it sold right out. It was filling a little hole in the market. The fans knew Star Wars was big, and they were demanding more product, and that's what this is. When you look back on it now, it does seem a little bit sort of naive, and they must have expected to get some sort of you know, kickback from Lucasfilm itself. Even the join us for 4 issues, and it's got a guy with a Star Wars t-shirt replicating the Saturday Night Fever poster there. Farrah Fawcett Major's there on the wall. If we have a little look through this, you can see these guys are collectors. Look, put a yak face picture there for the computer geek. These are the guys who put this together. John Snyder, that rings a vague bell. Bootleg Video Corner, the Star Wars Holiday Special. You can see probably why Lucas weren't exactly over the moon about this. Magazines here. Rise and Fall of IBOJK. Confessions of a Star Wars. The Force of Star Wars. Well, we've covered that one in one of my videos as well. Star Wars paperback videos. That was that really offbeat book where they tried to, where Christianity and the Force and Star Wars were tried to be tied together. Very, very unusual book, and rare paperback, that one. Jesus Christ Superstar. You can see why this is controversial, can't you? But then a serious article on Topps cards and how they were starting to make a comeback with Star Wars Galaxy magazine. Naturally, they're showing the C-3PO with his elongated member there. Star Wars on trial. And it's almost like a bit of a posh fanzine more than anything, isn't it, you know? But yes, once Lucasfilm got wind of it, the magazine was hastily told to cease publication. All copies were asked to be recalled, so these are distributed in the UK by Diamond Comic Distributors. And they said, oh, please send all your copies of Star Wars Generation back, but we didn't because it was already a hot seller, and we decided to keep them all. But there you go, that was warranted. Who knows what they make now, but I'd imagine it's probably, you know, a curiosity more than anything. Movie Collector magazine, picked this one up because this was a fantastic magazine. This is another one from the early 90s. It's got that fantastic Empire poster there. Just a really, really interesting magazine in general. And I just miss this sort of stuff. I really do. You know, it's part of us moving to digital these days. There's no physical product to get your hands on. This was nice. This was an official Lucasfilm magazine, and it was on our best bounty hunter, Boba Fett, from the editors of Star Wars Galaxy Collector. This is all on the Bounty Hunter. Nice high quality magazine, this one, and worth tracking down. Nice Boba Fett mag there. Time magazine, again, we saw one in the last video, didn't we, with George Lucas on the front. This one's looking at The Phantom Menace, which was a huge film. Cards Illustrated, so I've got a few issues of these. Cards Illustrated was a magazine, I think it's still going today, that looked at all non-sports trading cards. Had a little price guide there. Generally, if it had quite a nice Star Wars cover or article inside, then I would generally keep it. This one's got the droids on the front there. Here's another copy of Cards Illustrated. Quite nice there. Another one, short-lived one, was Triton. That's got a really nice nice cover there. Looking at more Topps cards. This is 1990. Looking at the Topps cards there. This is from 1994, number 3. Interesting stuff. Sfx Magazine. Issue 1, Volume 1. Nice Boba Fett cover. Sort of toys and collectibles magazine by the look of it, this one. And really nicely produced, but not a lot to it. I've got a few computer gaming mags which were of the period, because I did used to enjoy a bit of Star Wars gaming. Star Wars gamer with some Star Wars stuff there and a poster. Dark Side, Secrets of the Sith. Oh, this one's quite nice. This is actually from the makers of Cinefantastique. It was one of their spin-off mags called Femme Fatales, and this one was a Carrie Fisher special. And this was sort of sexy sirens of the screen sort of thing, and this one had a little Carrie Fisher section. There she is, with Hugh Hefner there as one of the bunnies in an episode of Laverne and Shirley. So that's Femme Fatales, a nice Star Wars issue of that one. Next, another early gaming mag, PC Player. This one's from 1994, and this one looks at TIE Fighter, which was the follow-up to X-Wing. If you remember, if you ever played X-Wing on the on your old PC, this was the follow-up to it. Fantastic. And then they eventually did X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and a few other spin-offs. In fact, this one here, look, this is PC Gamer. And this is X-Wing versus TIE Fighter on the front cover. This is July 96. And this one here, this, I was delighted when I found this recently. So this is on the back here. I used to have this on my wall in my room. This was, and it's too big to get in the picture, but this was all the different missions for X-Wing in the game. It's a huge poster, and it would be basically the walkthrough. Just, that game was just so amazing. Such a great story behind it. I was delighted when I found that. You can even see a little bit of like Blue Tack, where I used to have that one pinned up in my sort of game room. So really, really cool magazine, that one. Now this I don't really remember. Ultimatum, issue 7. It's got a Cam Kennedy cover there, tying in with Star Wars Dark Empire, which is that fantastic early Star Wars miniseries, which sort of relaunched Star Wars in comics. Yeah, like a little comic thing, like a promo thing or something. Quite interesting. What's this? FX 96, the coolest show on Earth. The Florida Star Wars extravaganza. Well, I never went to this one, but evidently someone did who I knew, and gave me the booklet. Those were the guests. Look, Dave Prowse, Jeremy Bullock, Peter Mayer, Kenny Baker. The usual suspects, you could say. This is just like a little convention booklet, that one. This is interesting. See, these all just ended up with my magazine collection. This is an early Letraset set from 1977. This is set number 2, Escape from the Death Star, with multiple transfers applied. It seems Ben and Darth are fighting in midair. I don't know how they managed that. I suppose that's quite good with the guards falling off the edge of the Falcon there. This may have been my one from when I was a kid, because I did have some of these. I have got some unused like sets of transfers and stuff, but there we are. You never know. You never know what you're going to find in these things. Now this is another unusual thing. This is for the BFI, so let's have a look at this a minute. The BFI is the British Film Institute, and this has got some like slides here. A media education pack for primary schools. And the slides are from the first movie. What's all this about then? Is it dated? Dated 1990. And this is for studying Star Wars. Well, there you go. Developing children's understanding of the film using the slides. So this is like a teacher's pack for teaching kids Star Wars. Can you believe it? And obviously, as I said, produced by the British Film Institute. How amazing, eh? That's all teachers' resources and stuff. Can't imagine there's many of those around. How unusual. How unusual. Star Wars Kids Magazine. So I think when we had the shop, we were sent these for free. Yeah, this is Star Wars Kids Magazine. It's got a special mini preview issue. And then that was the first actual issue of it. And it was just a Star Wars mag designed predominantly for children by the looks of it. This is like a dummy run issue. Probably to get advertisers on board. Interesting nonetheless. This is a French magazine. Star Wars Collection. Number 1. Numero 1. So again, it's a bit like Cinefantastique. It's a genre magazine. It's got a bit of a feature on some toys and things there. Quite interesting. Film reviewer. We saw some of those in the last video. This is a much more up-to-date one. It was a film review special, once again published for Star Wars' 20th anniversary. It's an all Star Wars issue, so that's really nice. Probably nothing we've not seen before. PC Zone. So this was another gaming magazine from 1996, and this was looking the exclusive at Rebel Assault 2, which was another excellent Star Wars game. It came out on a few different systems. Rebel Assault 2. Back to some more Sci-Fi Universe. So this is another one. 50 Reasons Why We Hate Return of the Jedi and Love Star Wars. Well, I don't know about that, because Jedi is excellent. So, shush. The next Star Wars trilogy. So this is looking ahead at, I guess, The Phantom Menace. The good thing about this mag was it was really well written, as I recall. And because I like all sort of genre movies, there was always lots in there apart from Star Wars. But I obviously kept that one. In fact, that was the first launch issue because it had a Star Wars cover. Not of This Earth. So I do remember this magazine, and this was a special edition, which was Star Wars on one side and Tech War, William Shatner's Tech War on the other side. So it's like a flip magazine. You got a lot for your money because it was actually quite a cheap magazine, this, but each one felt almost like a book. It was only $4.95, it was like $3.99 in UK money. Sfx Magazine, well, Sfx have covered Star Wars lots over the years. I wasn't a massive fan of it because, I don't know, I just didn't like the early issues that much, but this was a particularly nice cover with the Stormtrooper on there and the silver writing. So this is one that I did end up keeping. I don't know what it was, but those early issues of Star Wars, of Sfx used to find really pretentious. I don't know why. Nice ad there with all the Star Wars games of the time. That was the X-Wing Collector's Edition, and they did follow it up with TIE Fighter. Both just fantastic, those. A couple more card magazines. So Combo, this was another one where they tried to do it all. It was cards, action figures, comics, the works, basically. Didn't last that long, Combo magazine, but it had its good points. Price guides. Everyone seemed to be obsessed with prices back then. Star Wars Special Edition cover. Probably had a free card in, which is why I kept that one. This is another issue, number 7, a bit earlier, which has got a Star Wars cover on it. Probably an article inside as well. What's this? The Star Wars Galaxy magazine presents the official guide to Star Wars toys. So once again, this is published by Topps. Look at some older bits and bobs, the Decipher game there. I mean, interesting, I guess. Some of this stuff, was readily available back then because it hadn't sold at the time, and now, like the Sigma ceramic stuff and that, and now you're looking at quite collectible old bits and pieces. Fair dues. And then the last magazine we've got is this one, which is another non-sport card magazine, and this is Star Trek versus Star Wars plus DCV Marvel. So just looking at the latest sets, because by this time Topps were publishing sets every few months for Star Wars, which who can blame them, because they were so much money, weren't they? They were doing so well. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest batch of Star Wars magazines. So I hope you've enjoyed looking through those. There certainly was some good stuff in there, and even to this day, if a really nice Star Wars magazine spots my eye on the shelf, I will generally pick it up and at least have a look. And if it's really good, I might even buy it. But some little gems in there for sure. If you have enjoyed this video, do please give it a thumbs up. Do consider subscribing for regular vintage Star Wars content. There's loads more still to do and unpack and to go through with you. So lots more coverage to come. And I shall look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.